I'd like to welcome all listeners back again to the fifth section of the third installment of the analysis of James Joyce's Ulysses by John Ruane. That's me. Um, as I said before, I come from the village of Monavea, which is approximately 15 miles from Galway City in the west of Ireland. Actually, I got a few emails from people asking me about Galway. Where is Galway located in Ireland? Well, Galway basically is one of the counties in the west of Ireland. In the west of Ireland, you would have County Galway, County Mayo, County Roscommon, County Sligo, and County Leitrim. Them would be the five counties in the west coast of Ireland. All counties are very scenic, full of mountains, lakes, rivers, so on and so forth. And a lot of tourists come to the west of Ireland for that scenery, mostly. And also the the many historical castles and ruined castles and all the historical places in the west of Ireland. That basically is where Galway is. Galway County would be how big would it be? I'm not quite sure. But that's Galway is in the west coast of Ireland. Now the main airport in the west of Ireland would be used to be called Knock Airport. Now it's called what's it called at all now? It's called Ireland West Airport Knock. I think that's the name of it. Ireland West Airport Knock. That would be the main airport, which is in County Mayo, which would be the next county to County Galway. I come from like the rural village called Monavea, which is also steeped in history with many historical sites here, like ruined castles, forests and rivers, and a very scenic spot and a beautiful village. Actually, I passed another village there, actually, driving into Monavea there, the village of Abbeynackmai, which is very well maintained, a beautiful village also. Um, Actually, the village of Abbeynackmai and Monavea are very similar. They're actually about the same size, the same number of shops and pubs and so on and so forth. Yeah, Abbeynackmai looks really village of Abbeynackmai looks really good at the moment with all the shrubs and flowers and so on. And also Abbeynackmai is also steeped in history. There are a lot of ruined monasteries and castles around that area. Well, that's basically where I come from. Where I'm actually doing this recording is from the village of Monavea, and I'm just after coming from one of the local shops here, Cook's shop, where actually I bought the one of the local papers here in County Galway would be the Connacht Tribune, which comes out on a Thursday, and practically everybody in Galway County would buy the Connacht Tribune every Thursday, and read it, all the local news and their sports and everything that's happening in the county of Galway. Now, there will be four papers here, local papers in County Galway. Connacht Tribune would be one. The Tuam Herald would be another very popular paper. Along the same lines as the Connacht Tribune, the Tuam Herald, most people purchase that too. And also two other papers that's delivered actually free, called the Galway Independent. It's a free paper. It's delivered to most houses in County Galway, and also the Galway Advertiser. Most people in County Galway would browse through all them four papers. They'd be the four most popular papers in Galway, and practically everybody in Galway would browse through all of them four papers. They're actually very very good papers. I get them every week myself. So anyways, back to Ulysses. We finished off at where do we finish off? I should go back. Well, I've marked down here page 60, 67, 68. It's near the end of page 67, and I'll getting through probably 4 pages here, which will bring us up to about page 71, more or less. And as I said before, it would be a good idea if people mark the pages with a pen or pencil, and you'll be more or less on the same wavelength. Well, anyways, I'm gonna now there will be hesitations, as I said before in this recording. It's it's an amateur affair, kind of, with not a cheap enough headset, and it's not a professional job by any means, but whatever. So I want to read over that again. Flat Dublin voices bawled in his head. Those two sluts that night in the combe linked together in the rain. When Mary lost the pen of her drawers, she didn't know what to do to keep it up. To keep it up. Now I know I read that before, but I just want to lead into the next section. It them such a bad headache. It them such a bad headache. Has our roses probably. Or sitting all day typing. Eye focus bad for stomach nerves. What perfume does your wife use? Now could you make out of a thing like that? That's where I stopped, I think. Now just going back over that again. More or less. Heather Roses probably. Most people have an idea what that is about. Or sitting all day typing. Now Leopold Bloom is thinking about this lady to send him this pen letter. It seems was she sitting all day typing? Is that the reason she had a headache? Eye focus bad for stomach nerves. He's also thinking, what perfume does your wife use? Now the lady in the letter said this to him, and he's just thinking that. Now could you make out of a thing like that? Kind of a common enough expression here in Ireland. Next line, to keep it up, which is the line from that song that these two slutty women, as he said, were singing. Reading on, starting again. Martha, Mary, I saw that picture somewhere. I forgot now. Old master are faked for money. He is sitting in their house talking, mysterious. Also the two sluts in the combe would listen. To keep it up. Nice kind of evening feeling. No more wandering about. Just loll there, quite dusk. Let everything rip. Forget. Tell about places you have been. Strange customs. The other one, jar on her head, was getting the supper, fruit, olives, lovely cool water out of the well, stone cold like the hole in the wall at Ashtown. Must carry a paper goblet next time I go to the Trotting Matches. She listens with big, dark, soft eyes, tell her more and more all. Then a sigh, silence, long rest. 3 words from Joyce there. Going over that again, to keep it up. Martha Mary. Now, so Leopold Bloom is standing in the street, and I think he's looking at like a hoarding, which is like a poster stuck on the wall. Martha Mary. Martha Mary, I saw that picture somewhere. Now, this could be just an ordinary picture, just an ordinary picture. Or, now, here in Ireland, they don't say the movies. Like in America, they say the movies. In England, I'm not so sure what to say in England. When you go to a movie house, I should know that because I spent a few years in London. But in Ireland here, they say the pictures. They don't say the movies. They say, are you going to the pictures? In America, they would say, are you going to the movies? Here in Ireland, we would say, we're going to the pictures. Now, Martha Mary, I saw that picture somewhere. I forgot now, old master, or faked for money. But I'm more inclined to think this is a picture, like a picture you'd hang up in a gallery, more or less. I think it would be that. And now, because I know Joyce was involved with bringing in, movies and pictures in some enterprise in Dublin. I'm not sure that it'll work out or not, but I think he was involved in I think Joyce was one of the first people to kind of organise bringing in like movies, pictures into Ireland with some other person. Now I don't know all the ins and outs of all that, but I think this picture actually is a picture like you see in like in a gallery. Martha Mary is probably a famous picture. Martha Mary, I saw that now he sees like a copy of it hung on the wall or something. I kind of be thinking along them lines. So he says, Martha Mary, I saw that picture somewhere. He saw it somewhere before. I forgot now. He's thinking, I forget now where I seen it. Old master, yes, it was an old masterpiece. Or was it faked from money? Or was it a forgery? That's what he's thinking. Now, looking at the picture, there's possibly a person now in this picture, like a male obviously, and he's looking. He is sitting in their house talking, mysterious. Now, this person could be in this picture he's looking at. It's possible. Also, the two sluts in the comb would listen. The two ladies that were linking their hands singing that song. He referred to just in the last paragraph. I don't know what that's about really. To keep it up. Now, this is the line from the song they were singing. Now, nice kind of evening feeling. Now, he's looking at this picture. Yes, it's obviously a picture, like in a poster, like kind of thing. And he's thinking, this picture, it's got a nice kind of evening feeling. No more wandering about. Just loll there. Quite dusk. Let everything rip. Forget. Tell about places you have been. Strange customs. The other one, now this could be a person in this picture. The other one, jar on her head. It could be, a lady with, like a hat that looks like a kind of a jar, possibly. Or, no, would it not be like something like a lady, in the desert areas where they wear these, hats like that. If I knew anything about this picture, this would be very easy to figure out. The other one, jar on her head, visualize, a lady in one of these countries, in the desert areas, be thinking along them lines. Jar on her head was getting the supper, fruit, olives, lovely cool water out of the well, stone cold. So there's obviously a well here with water in this picture too, I would say. Lovely cool water out of the well, stone cold, like the hole in the wall at Ashtown. Now he's thinking about, yes, that water that I see in that picture would remind you of a hole in the wall at a place called Ashtown where he used to go, and it looks the same. And now he thinks, must carry a paper goblet next time I go to the Trotting Matches. Now the Trotting Matches would be a kind of form of horse racing here. I don't think they're not that popular in Ireland anymore, but maybe at the time they were. I know they're popular in parts of America, Trotting Matches. It's basically a jockey sitting on a buggy with two wheels. I think that's what Trotting Matches are. So he's thinking about a time he went to Trotting Matches at a place called Ashtown. Must carry a paper goblet next time I go to the Trotting Matches, to drink water. She listens with big, dark, soft eyes. Now he could be focusing back on the picture he's looking at, and he's thinking about the lady on the picture, possibly. She listens with big, dark, soft eyes. Tell her more and more all. Then a sigh, silence, long, long, long rest. That could be a possible explanation, that whole paragraph. Not 100% sure about that, but it's possible. Reading on. Going under the railway arch, he took out the envelope, tore it swiftly in shreds, and scattered them towards the road. The shreds fluttered away, sank in the dank air, a white flutter, then all sank. Henry Flower, you could tear up a cheque for £100 in the same way. Simple bit of paper. Lord Ive once cashed a 7-figure cheque for £1 million in the Bank of Ireland. Shows you the money to be made out of porter. Still the other brother, Lord Ardelon, has to change his shirt 4 times a day, they say. Skin breeds lice or vermin. £1 million. Wait a moment. 2 pence a pint, 4 pence a quart, 8 pence a gallon of porter. No, 1 and 4 pence a gallon of porter. 1 and 4 into 20, 15 about. Yes, exactly. 15 millions of barrels of porter. What am I saying? Barrels, gallons, about 1 million barrels, all the same. Now, going over that again. Going under the railway arch. So now Leopold Bloom is walking under a railway arch. This is now, listeners. Try and visualize this in your mind. Leopold Bloom. Pretend you're with Leopold Bloom walking under a railway arch. Going under the railway arch, he took out the envelope, which is the letter, tore it swiftly in shreds, and scattered them towards the road. So now he's tore up this letter. So he obviously doesn't want Molly Bloom to see this letter. So he's tore it up. He doesn't want anybody to know about it. So this is all kind of clandestine, as I say. Tore it swiftly in shreds and scattered them towards the road. The shreds fluttered away, sank in the dank air, a white flutter, then all sank. That's great writing from Joyce here. The shreds fluttered away, visualize that, sank in the dank air, a white flutter, it reminds you of like a bird with wings, then all sank. Henry Flower, he's thinking about, his alias name he's using. Henry Flower, you could tear up a cheque for £100 in the same way. Now he's thinking you could tear up a cheque for £100 in the same way as he tore up the letter. It's a simple bit of paper. Now he's thinking all this. Lord Iva once cashed a 7-figure cheque for £1 million in the Bank of Ireland. So this Lord Iva was probably an English landlord in Ireland at that time. A wealthy man, obviously, cashed a cheque for £1 million in the Bank of Ireland. Shows you, and he must be somehow involved with selling porter, possibly in Guinness's brewery. Shows you the money to be made out of porter, porter is Guinness. Porter is stout, is also Guinness, and actually in Ireland here there's another stout called Murphy's Stout, which is very popular down in Munster and Cork and Tipperary and all them counties. Murphy's porter. Well, it's basically stout. A few names. Porter, stout, the same thing. Still the other brother. So the other brother of Lord Iver. Still the other brother, Lord Ardelon. Now in Ireland you see a lot of hotels here called Ardelon hotels. They were probably built by this Lord Ardelon, who was another brother of Lord Iver. Still the other brother, Lord Ardelon, had to change his shirt 4 times a day, they say. So this Lord Ardelon used to change his shirt 4 times a day, obviously a wealthy man. Now he's thinking, skin breathes lice, or is it vermin? So he's thinking all this. Yeah, skin, it breathes lice, or is it vermin? £1 million, wait a moment. Now he's probably stopped in the street and he's thinking, £1 million, wait a moment. So he's really getting deeper into thought. Now he starts figuring out in his head, 2 pence a pint, 4 pence a quart, 8 pence a gallon of porter. No, 1 and 4 pence a gallon of porter. Now he's trying to figure out how this Lord Ardelon made this, or Lord Iver made this £1 million, or so on and so forth. 1 and 4 into 20, 15 about. Yes, exactly. He's figuring all this in his head. 15 millions of barrels of porter. These are all his thoughts. What am I saying? Barrels, gallons, about 1 million barrels, all the same. He's thinking all this in his head. Now that's a real Irish expression here, all the same. About 1 million barrels, all the same. That's a very common expression in Ireland. Reading on. An incoming train clanked heavily above his head, coach after coach, barrels bumped in his head, dull porter slapped and churned inside. The bunk holes sprang open and a huge dull flood leaked out, flowing together, winding through mudflats all over the level land, a lazy pooling swirl of liquor bearing along wide-leaved flowers of its froth. He had reached the open back door of All Hallows. Stepping into the port, he doffed his hat, took the card from his pocket and tucked it again behind the leather headband. Damn it, I might have tried to work Mackay for a path to Mullingar. So, going over that again. An incoming train clanked heavily above his head. Remember now, he's under this railway track, right? So a train, you see the preciseness of Joyce's writing, he sends the train along. An incoming train clanked heavily above his head, coach after coach. Barrels bumped in his head. This train could possibly hold like barrels of porter being transferred, to different parts of Ireland, An incoming train clanked heavily above his head, coach after coach. You can visualize that clear enough. Barrels bumped in his head. Now, barrels bumped in his head. He possibly heard the barrels in this train like bumping together. And barrels bumped in his head. Dull porter slapped and churned inside. Dull porter slapped and churned inside. This is the barrels of porter, the barrels of Guinness or whatever, Murphy's Stout. dull porter slopped and churned inside. Now the bunk holes sprang open and a huge flood leaked out. Um, um, I don't think that this actually happened in the train, but I think this just happened in his mind. He's just thinking, if he's thinking in his mind, if the holes in, the bunk holes in this train, if they sprang open and a huge dull flood leaked out, and if all this porter leaked out, flowing together, winding through mud flats all over the level land, a lazy pooling swirl of liquor bearing along wide-leaved flowers of its froth. Now he's just visualising in his head. This didn't happen, I don't think, but he's visualising in his head, if the bunk holes in this train all open and all the porter leaked out from the barrels, this is what would happen. I think that's what's gone on there, but it didn't actually happen, I don't think. No, it didn't happen. He had reached the open back door of All Hallows. All Hallows, we don't know what that is yet. Stepping into the port, he doffed his hat, took the card from his pocket, and tucked it again behind the leather headband. Damn it! I might have tried to work Mackay for a pass to Mullingar. So he stepped into the port. He doffed his hat. He took off his hat and doffed it. Took the card from his pocket. He took a card from his pocket and tucked it again behind the leather headband. Now he's hiding this card inside his hat again. This hat has been used a lot in this book. Damn it! Now he thinks, damn it! I might have tried to work Mackay for a pass to Mullingar. Excuse me. Because the person called Mackay, who obviously works in this newspaper that he works for, that he was going to try and get a pass, some kind of a free pass, to go to Mullingar to visit his daughter Millie, who's in Mullingar working in a summer job, remember? And he's just thinking that, he should have got a free pass. Now, reading on. Same notice on the door, sermon by the Very Reverend John Conmee, S.J., of St. Peter Clever and the African missions, save China's millions. Wonder how they explain it to the heathen Chinese, prefer an ounce of opium, celestials, rank heresy for them, prayers for the conversion of Gladstone. They had too when he was almost unconscious. The Protestants the same, convert Dr. William J. Walsh, D.D., to the true religion. Buddha, their God, lying on his side in the museum, taking it easy with hand under his cheek, joss sticks burning. 1 second. So I should go over that again. So now he's same notice on the door. So now I think he's at the door of a church and he's looking at a notice on the door of a church. Now he's thinking this same notice on the door. Sermon by the Very Reverend John Conmee. So the priest saying mass in here is a priest called John Conmee. Joyce is called him Conmee. I think Joyce is more or less saying Conmee. Why do they call him Reverend John Conmee? He's kind of more or less saying John Conman. There's some kind of a connotation there with Joyce when he uses Conmee. I'm not. I can't say that for sure, but you would have knowing Joyce's writing so far. He could have picked any name, but he picked Conmee, and he names a lot in all his books. Same notice on the door, servant by the Very Reverend John Conmee, S.J., of on St. Peter Clever and the African Mission. The African missions are, the Catholic Church. They've done sent a lot of priests down to the years out to, lands, poor areas in Africa and all over the world. Great charity work and so on and so forth. African missions would refer to the African missions. Priests would go out there and work there in these lands, poor, poverty-stricken lands, and serve the people, and all that. Fantastic work, really. So this is the African missions, and in Ireland they'd be always collecting money for poorer nations and sending the money out to them. Very charitable work. A lot of these priests do. Save China's millions. Now, Leopold Bloom is thinking this. Save China's millions. The population in China, save them. Wonder how they explain it to the heathen Chinese. Now, Leopold Bloom is thinking, I wonder how the priests explain all about God to the heathen Chinese. And now he's thinking, prefer an ounce of opium. He's thinking the Chinese would prefer an ounce of opium. Now, this is all thoughts going on in Leopold Bloom's mind. Celestials, referring to priests and so on, rank heresy for them. Heresy referring to, but kind of what I mean. Prayers, and then he's thinking, prayers for the conversion of Gladstone they had to when he was almost unconscious. So there was a person in Irish history called Gladstone. I think he was English. I don't know much about him. I probably learned in school all them years ago when I was going to Athenry Technical School in Athenry there, and I definitely learned all that, and also in Monavea National School, but I've forgotten it all. Prayers for the conversion of Gladstone they had to when he was almost unconscious. So this Gladstone was unconscious, dying, and the Catholic Church had prayers for his conversion. Either he convert to the Catholic faith from the Protestant faith, if I was to guess there. And then he thinks the Protestants the same. So now he's thinking about Protestants the same. They had, probably prayers for convert Dr. William J. Walsh, D.D. to the true religion. So he's more than saying that the Protestants possibly at that time had prayers to convert a Catholic to the true religion, which in their eyes it would be the Protestant religion. I think that's what's going on there. Now he's thinking Buddha, the Buddhist monks, more or less. The Buddha's their God lying on his side in a museum. That's their God, he's thinking. Taking it easy with hand under his cheek. That would refer to a statue of their God, possibly. Joss sticks burning. I don't know what joss sticks are, but that's possibly something got to do with the Buddha religion. Not like Echo Homo, which is, I think, the Catholic religion. Crown of thorns and cross. He's thinking all this. Yeah, their religion is the crown of thorns and cross. And then he's thinking, clever idea. He's thinking it's a really clever idea. Let me read the paragraphs through. St. Patrick, the Shamrock, Chopsticks, Conmee, Merton Cunningham knows him, distinguished looking. Sorry I didn't work him about getting Molly into the choir instead of that Father Fairley, who looked a fool but wasn't. They are taught that he's not going out in blue specs with the sweat rolling off him to a baptized blacks, is he? The glasses would take their fancy, flashing. Like to see them sitting round in a ring with blub lips, entranced, listening. Still life, lap it up like milk, I suppose. The cold smell of sacred stone called him. He trod the worn steps, pushed the swing door, and entered softly to the reary. Okay, let's go back now. Crown of thorns and cross. Clever idea. He's taking all this. St. Patrick the Shamrock. Now he's saying about St. Patrick and, the association of the Shamrock with St. Patrick. And he's thinking chopsticks. He's thinking about the Chinese chopsticks. Conmee, the priest, the Saint Mass. He's thinking about Conmee. Merton Cunningham knows him. Now he's thinking about the person he knows called Merton Cunningham that knows this priest, Father Conmee. Merton Cunningham knows him, distinguished looking. He's referring to the priest here. He's distinguished looking. Sorry I didn't work him, or else he could be referring to Merton Cunningham being distinguished looker. One or the other, whichever. And then he's thinking, sorry I didn't work him about getting Molly into the choir instead of that Father Fairley who looked a fool but wasn't. Now Leopold Bloom is thinking that he's sorry he didn't ask Merton Cunningham, or possibly the priest, sorry I didn't work him about getting Molly into the choir. Okay, I would say the priest here, Father Conmee. And Leopold Bloom is thinking, I'm sorry I didn't ask Father Conmee, or could be Merton Cunningham, whichever, about getting Molly Bloom into the choir, singing in a choir instead of a person called Father Fairley, another priest, who looked a fool but wasn't. Who looked a fool, who who sang in this choir. Probably there was a big choir in the church, and Molly Bloom, you know, Leopold Bloom is sorry he didn't get his wife, put in a word for it, as they say here in this country, and it would have been good if she sang in the choir, um, at some event. Um, uh, Instead of that Father Farley, who looked a fool but wasn't, I'm not sure about that. Who looked like a fool, maybe, uh, but I'm not sure about that. Possibly this Father Farley looked like a fool when he was singing or something, but wasn't really. Could mean he wasn't a bad singer, as they say. They're taught that. I think he's referring here to priests. They're taught that. What are the thought? I don't know what he's. I'm not really sure what he's insinuating. He's not gone down. He's not going out in blue specs with the sweat rolling off him to baptize blacks, is he? Um, Blue specs. Specs here in Ireland means glasses. Maybe they mean that in other countries. I'm not sure. But in Ireland here, specs is another word for glasses. Like reading glasses as such. Or glasses to see. He's not going out in blue specs with the sweat. Now he's referring to a priest here. He's not gone out in blue specs, wearing blue glasses with the sweat rolling off him to baptize blacks, is he? Um, he's thinking about some priests going out to, the African missions or whatever, and baptize, people whose, skin is colored black, more or less. And then he's thinking the glasses would take their fancy. Now he's thinking about these people in Africa. If they seen a priest with glasses on, they wouldn't be used to seeing a person probably with glasses on. The glasses would take their fancy. They would, they would take their fancy, because they never seen them before, more or less flashing. Now he's thinking about glasses. Yes, they would flash in the sun. Like to see them, like them sitting around in a ring with blood lips in trance listening. Like to see them sitting around. No, so when the priest would be, saying mass in these African countries, possibly, all these people would be sitting around, um, sitting around on the ground, possibly entranced, listening. Still life. They'd be listening. They'd be all still. It'd be like still life. Lap it up like milk. They'd lap up what the priest is saying like milk. That lap it up, lap it up like milk, I suppose. They'd be really, enthralled by it and all that. They'd lap it up, they'd take it all in, more or less. The cold smell of sacred stone called him. Now he's about to enter the church, I would say. This cold smell of sacred stone called him. He trod the warden steps. Now Joyce used this deliberately. He trod the warden steps. Joyce, I don't think, was a big fan of the Catholic Church. Well, I kind of know a lot about Joyce, but so far I'm just going to go on what we've learned so far in the book, because I know what's going to happen in this book, and I know a lot about Joyce, but so far in the book it seems like he's not a fan of the Catholic Church as such. He trod the worn steps, pushing the swing door, and entered softly by the rear. Now, but who knows? As the book goes on, we may discover. I'm the type of person, I don't like to go on what other people say about writers as such. I like to discover for myself, more or less. So we'll reserve that judgment about Joyce when we finish this book. But a lot of the time when Joyce is kind of making fun of the Catholic Church and priests, he's being mischievous. He's not being malicious as such. And he's always been mischievous with a lot of stuff in his writing, like the well-to-do people. He's constantly kind of giving them digs, more or less. But he's not been malicious. He's been mischievous. as everybody knows, Joyce was really loved, the ordinary working class people, because that's all he wrote about all the time. He was fascinated by ordinary people, ordinary everyday people. And you can tell he has such a great time for, just ordinary, everyday people, more or less. He trod the worn steps, pushed the swing door, and entered softly by the rail. Reading on. Something gone on, some solidarity, pity so empty, nice discreet place to be next some girl. Who was my neighbour, jammed by the hour to slow music, that woman at midnight mass, seventh heaven. Women knelt in the benches with crimson halters round their necks, heads bowed. A batch knelt at the altar rails. The priest went along by them, murmuring, holding the thing in his hands. He stopped at each, took out a communion, shook a drop or two, earthy and water, off it, and put it neatly into her mouth. Her hat and head sank. Then the next one, a small old woman, the priest bent down to put it into her mouth, murmuring all the time Latin. 1 second. Sorry about that now. Moving on. Then the next one, a small woman, the priest bent down to put it into her mouth, murmuring all the time Latin. The next one, shut your eyes and open your mouth. What? Corpus, body, corpse, good idea, the Latin. Stupefies them first, hospice for the dying. They don't seem to chew it, only swallow it down. Room idea, eating. Bits of a corpse, why the cannibals cotton to it. Before I read that now, where are we told? The cold smell of sacred stone called him. He trod the worn steps, pushed the swing door, and entered softly by the river. Now he's entered the church. Something gone on. Now he's looking around and he sees people in the church, and he says there's something gone on. Obviously the mess. Probably I'd like to point out that Leopold Bloom was of the Jewish religion. He wasn't a Roman Catholic or a Protestant. He was of the Jewish religion. So visualize this from his mind. He knows nothing about. He doesn't know much about the Catholic religion or the Protestant religion as such. So a lot of these thoughts are, would be. He wouldn't know a lot of what goes on basically in Catholic churches as such. But these are his thoughts as he's thinking. Something going on, some solidarity, pity so empty. So he's thinking, it's the pity this church is so empty. There's not many people there. Nice, discreet place to be next some girl. Now he's thinking, this is a nice place to be if you're sitting beside a nice, discreet place to be next some girl. If you're beside a nice girl, who is my neighbour, he's thinking. Jammed by the hour to slow music. Now he's thinking, this church is jammed. Jammed means, jammed is another expression, a word here in Ireland is for full up. It's full up by the hour to slow music. He's thinking. Now he's thinking, that woman at midnight mass, seventh heaven. So he was at midnight mass here, which happens on Christmas Eve. So he was at mass, possibly in this church. He's thinking this, that woman at midnight mass, seventh heaven. So this woman, there was in this mass was a beautiful lady, and he's thinking she was seventh heaven. She was, a stunning looking woman. That's what he's thinking. That woman at midnight mass, seventh heaven. Women knelt in the benches with. Now this is Joyce, the writer, has entered again. Women knelt in the benches with crimson halters round their necks, heads bowed. Now, the women in this church are crimson halters. A halter is something you see around a horse. Crimson halters in this, if I was to guess right here now, I would say they're like red scarves. Crimson halters. It seems like red scarves. That's what you call them, crimson halters. Women knelt in their benches with crimson halters round their necks. Scarves, I would say. Heads bowed. So their heads bowed. A batch knelt at the altar. A batch of people knelt at the altar rails. The altar rails will be towards the front of the church, and people receive, go up there and kneel down during the mass, after the sermon, and receive Holy Communion from the priest. A batch knelt at the altar rails, so obviously they're going to receive communion soon, which is the small round wafer I referred to actually earlier on in this book, which in a spiritual sense, it's the body and blood of Jesus, in a spiritual sense. The priest went along by them, so they're all kneeling down at these altar rails. Altar rails would be possibly about 2 foot high. You kneel down, and it's like a wooden kind of a structure, and the priest would put the Holy Communion into your mouth, more or less. A batch knelt at the altar rails. The priest went along by them, murmuring, saying a prayer, obviously, as he's doing this, holding the thing in his hands. So, holding the thing in his hands is the Holy Communion. But Joyce is insinuating something else here. This is the mischievous nature of Joyce's writing. The priest went along by them, murmuring, holding the thing in his hands. He stopped at each, took out a communion, one of the from a little, like a silver kind of a cup. There would be all these Holy Communions would be inside the silver cup. He stopped at each person, took out a communion, shook a drop of it. So when it's like a white wafer, and he took out the wafer. Now there could be lingering little bits of wafer, on the top of it. He stopped it, he took out a communion, shook a drop of it. It's like a drop, but it's not. It's like little teeny bits of a wafer. Shook a drop of it. Are they in water? In brackets here. Now, Leopold Bloom was thinking, are they in water? Which they're not in water, but he's just thinking that. Shook a drop or two of it and put it neatly into her mouth. Joyce is kind of insinuating something else here. Her hat and head sank. Then the next one, a small old woman. The priest bent down to put it into her mouth, murmuring all the time, Latin. So he's using the Latin language as he's putting in the Holy Communions. But Joyce is referring to something else here as well, The next one, shut your eyes and open your mouth. What? Corpus. It's a Latin term used in the Catholic religion. Body. As I said, these Holy Communions are the body and blood of Jesus. It kind of it signifies about the Last Supper, and I don't know all the ins and outs of all that. But when you receive Holy Communion, it's food for your soul that we really know nothing about. It's a supernatural world. And Holy Communions would be food for your soul, basically. What corpus, body, corpse? Now, Leopold Bloom is thinking this. Corpus is called kind of Corpus Christi, is a term in the Catholic religion. And body, and he's thinking, it sounds like corpse. That's what he's thinking here now. And then he's thinking, good idea, the Latin. It's a good idea, because Latin, not too many people will understand Latin. And he's thinking, it's a good idea that they use Latin. It stupefies them first. That's what Joyce is saying here. Hospice for the dying. This is what he's thinking here. They don't seem to chew it. He is of the Jewish religion. Now, he doesn't know anything about Holy Communion, and possibly never took Holy Communion in his life, and he's thinking they don't seem to chew it, and he's wondering how come they don't chew it, only swallow it down. And he's thinking they only swallow it down. Rum idea. Now he knows bits and pieces about this Catholic faith, and he knows that the Holy Communion is the body and blood of Jesus in a spiritual sense, and he's thinking, and the body and blood, like the Holy Communion is the body of Jesus in a spiritual sense. That's just far beyond our intelligence to even, comprehend all that. Rum idea. So he's thinking about, if it's the body, isn't it like eating bits of a corpse? That's what he's thinking. And that's why cannibals cotton to it seem to like it. He's thinking all these crazy thoughts in his head as such, So that's what Joyce is, he's a lot of hidden meanings now in that whole paragraph there from Joyce, and no doubt he was laughing at it. He's next reading on. He stood aside, watching their blind masks pass down the aisle one by one and seek their places. He approached the bench and seated himself in its corner, nursing his hat and newspaper. These pots we have to wear. We ought to have hats modelled on our heads. They were about him here and there, with heads still bowed in their crimson halters, waiting for it to melt in their stomachs. Something like those mazat. It's that sort of bread, unleavened, shewbread. Look at them. Now I bet it makes them feel happy. Lollipop, it does. Yes, bread of angels is called. There's a big idea behind it. Kind of kingdom of God is within you, feel. First communicants, hokey pokey, a penny a lump. Now reading over that again. He stood aside, Leopold Bloom stood aside, or he could be sitting down now at this stage, I'm not sure. He stood aside, watching their blind mess. So all these people that received Holy Communion at the altar rails are going back to their seats in the church. Their blind mess passed down the aisle. They've got a serious kind of a look on their face, passed down the aisle, and they're going back to their seats one by one and seek their places, where they were sitting. He approached a bench. Now, he hadn't sat down yet. He approached a bench and seated himself in his corner. So now he's sat down in the church, nursing his hat and newspaper. So now he's taken off his hat and he must have his newspaper out. Then he's thinking, these pots we have to wear, which are hats. He's calling them pots, or he's thinking they're like pots. These pots we have to wear. We ought to have hats modelled on our heads. This is what he's thinking. They were about him here and there, all the people that sat down, their heads still bowed in their crimson halters, which is possibly red scarves. It could change now as we continue reading, which it actually does, but I'm not supposed to know what's happening as such. But right now it seems like they're red scarves, waiting for it to melt in their stomachs, which is the Holy Communion. They're waiting for this Holy Communion to melt in their stomachs because it's food for the soul. Something like those mazats. It's that sort of bread. Now he's thinking that Holy Communion wafer bread is something like this is possibly a bread in the Jewish religion, I would say. It's something like that. Those mazats. I don't know what mazat is, but it's something like Jewish religion or something like that, or bread that Jewish people might eat. I would say it's that sort of bread, unleavened shewbread, which is, I think that's Jewish, some kind of Jewish bread, shewbread. Let's check something here now. Bear with me. Yeah, Jewish bread is some kind of Jewish bread offered to God, shewbread. It's that sort of bread, unleavened shewbread. Look at that. Now he would know that because he's of the Jewish faith. Look at them. Now he's thinking, look at them. Look at all them people. Now I bet, and then he's thinking, now I bet it makes them feel happy. He's thinking, I bet this makes them feel happy. Lollipop. Now this Holy Communion is like, it's round, and it would be about the same size as a lollipop. And he's thinking, lollipop. It looks like a lollipop. It's about the same size as a lollipop. It does. Yeah, it does make them feel happy. Yes. And then he's thinking, bread of angels is called. Now he's thinking, Holy Communion is called the bread of angels. Yes, bread of angels is called. And then he's thinking, there's a big idea behind it. A kind of kingdom of God is within you, feel. Now this is what he's thinking. First communicants, which communicants is in the Catholic religion here. Kids of a certain age, I think it's 12, 13, or it could be younger actually. They receive Holy Communion for the first time, and it's a big day here. It's a big day. Your first Holy Communion is a big day, and first communicants will be the first time you receive Holy Communion. It's a big day, and it's a big deal in the Catholic religion. First communicants, he's thinking that. Hokey pokey, penny a lump. He's thinking that. He's a hokey pokey, penny a lump. That's like thinking about a song or something. They feel all like one family party. Same in the theatre, all in the same swim. He's thinking about the all, they're all the same, That's pretty self-explanatory. They do, I'm sure of that. And not so lonely in our confraternity. Now he's thinking about it's not so lonely in our confraternity. In the Jewish religion, I would say, in their religion, the confraternity, their brotherhood, kind of, they didn't come out a bit, spirish. Didn't come out a bit spirish to make tracks go move fast, kind of. Didn't come out after mess, probably didn't come out a bit spirish, or they do, I'm sure of that. Not so lonely in our confraternity. Didn't come out a bit spirish. Let off steam. Let off steam outside, possibly. Thing is, if you really believe in it, lures cure, waters of oblivion, and the knock apparition, statues bleeding, old fellow asleep near that confession box, Hinstow snores, blind faith, safe in the arms of kingdom come, lulls all pain, wake this time next year. Now, he's taken in there, in the Protestant religion, it's not so lonely, kind of. They didn't come out a bit spirish. He's probably thinking about the people that have to come out of mass, that come out in a hurry, kind of. Let off steam. They let off steam after being in the church for a while. Thing is, if you really believe in it, in God, I think he's thinking, Lourdes cure. Now, Lourdes, the place in France where the Blessed Mother, which is Jesus' mother, appeared to some children there. It's a very famous place in France. Lourdes cure. A lot of people, people that would be sick and so on, they would go to Lourdes, and a lot of people have got cured in Lourdes. This is actually true. This is not made up. A lot of people have got cured in Lourdes. So a lot of people go to the Lourdes shrine in France, and a lot of people have got cured, totally miraculous cures. Waters of oblivion, they get Lourdes water and so on. And the Knock apparition. Now, Knock is a place in County Mayo here where Our Lady, which is Jesus' mother, Our Lady Mary, she appeared with, I think, two other people from heaven, and appeared to a number of people in the Knock shrine, come back in the 1800s, and it's been all authenticated, as they say, and yes, it absolutely did happen. So he's referring to that Knock apparition, and they get thousands and thousands of visitors every year to the Knock shrine in County Mayo here. Hence the Ireland West Airport Knock is very close to the Knock apparition shrine there, and people come from all over the world to this Knock shrine, and they usually fly into Ireland West Airport Knock there, and that's one of the reasons the airport was built there in Knock, was because of this very famous shrine Knock in Knock in County Mayo, which is in the west of Ireland, next county to County Galway. And there's a big Ireland West Airport Knock is very close to that. Statues bleeding. So there's another thing that has happened. Statues bleeding and so on. In religion. Old fellow asleep near that confession box. So there's an old fellow asleep. So there's an old fellow in this church is asleep near a confession box. In the Catholic faith here, people go to tell their sins in a confessional box, and the priest gives them absolution. So if you have sins in your soul, you go in there and you talk to a priest, and he'll give you absolution, meaning he will forgive your sins, and he'll give you like what they call a penance. You say a few prayers, and then your soul is cleansed again. That's what a confessional box is all for. So there's an old fellow asleep near this confessional box. Hints to snore. Leopold Bloom is thinking hints to snore. So this old person is snoring, and then he's thinking blind faith because he's asleep. Safe in the arms of kingdom come. So he's thinking he's safe in the arms of kingdom come. Lulls all pain. Wake this time next year. Now he's thinking he'll probably wake this time next year. Reading on. He saw the priest stow the communion cup away, well in, and kneel an instant before it, showing a large grey boot sole from under the lace affair he had on. Suppose he lost the pin of his He wouldn't know what to do. Bald spot behind, letters on his back, INRI, no, IHS. Molly told me one time, I asked her, I have sinned, or no, I have suffered, is it? And the other one, our nails ran in. Meet one Sunday after the rosary. Do not deny my request. Turn up with a veil and black bag, dusk and the light behind her. She might be here with a ribbon round her neck to do the other thing all the same on the sly. Their character, that fellow that turned Queen's evidence on the Invincibles, he used to receive Carey was his name, the communion every morning. This very church, Peter Carey, no Peter Clever I am thinking of, Dennis Carey, and just imagine that. Wife and 6 children at home and plotting that murder all the time. Reading over that. So Leopold Bloom is watching the priest stow the communion cup, which is all these holy communions are kept in a communion cup, which is like a silver cup. He saw the priest stow the communion cup away, and it's held in a special box up at near the altar in the church, and it's like is it a kind of a gold kind of colored door? It's a small box about 9 inches by 9 inches kind of. There's like the door, like a gold kind of a colored door or silver, and the Holy Communion is kept in there. So he saw the priest stow the communion cup away, well in, and kneel an instant before. So now the priest knelt before that in respect to Jesus, of course. Now, when he was kneeling down, showing a large grey boot sole from under the lace affair he'd on. Now, this is Joyce having a bit of fun here again. So, Leopold Bloom could see a large grey boot sole from under the lace affair he'd on, which is the priest's garment. So, Joyce has called it the lace affair he'd on. He's having a bit of fun with priests again. Now, Leopold Bloom was thinking, suppose he lost the pin of his, the priestly garments. Suppose he lost the pin of his, he wouldn't know what to do. He's kind of bringing in a song here, a famous song here in Ireland. He lost the pin of his, he wouldn't know what to do. That's what's going on there. Bald spot behind. So now this priest has got a bald spot behind on his head, and then he's thinking letters on his back. His priestly garments, there's letters. This is the priest's garments for the Mass, INRI, which are the initials that was on Jesus' cross when he was crucified, I think. So these are on the priestly garments, INRI. These are on the back of his, and then he thinks letters on his back, INRI, and then Leopold is saying, no, it's IHS. Molly told me one time, his wife Molly Bloom told him. Now, one time I asked her, so he asked Molly Bloom, what do the letters IHS stand for? And Molly Bloom, it seems like Molly Bloom is a Catholic at this stage of the book. Molly told me one time, I asked her, IHS stands for I have sinned. And then he's thinking, oh, or no, I have suffered, is it? That's what he's thinking. And the other one, our nails ran in. Our nails, and the other one, it could be something else on the back of this priestly garments, or could be in the front. Our nails ran in, something along them lines. Meet one Sunday after the rosary. Now Leopold Bloom has started thinking about the letter he received from this lady, and she more or less said in the letter, we'll meet one Sunday after the rosary. Do not deny my request. She said this in the letter. And then he starts thinking here again. Turn up with a veil and black bag. Now, Leopold Bloom is thinking, if I went to meet this lady, she'd probably turn up with a veil and a black bag. Dusk and the light behind her. And then he's thinking, she might be here with a ribbon round her neck and do the other thing all the same on the sly. Now, he's never met this woman that wrote this letter, and he's thinking, she might be here in this church for all I know. She might be here with a ribbon round her neck and do the other thing all the same on the sly. The other thing all the same on the sly, meaning she could possibly be here in church, going to Mass and receiving Holy Communion, and, about to get involved in a sinful venture, on the sly. Their character, And let me read on. Their character, that fellow that turned Queen's evidence on the Invincibles, he used to receive that. Their character could be referring to the lady or the priest, something on the night. And now he's thinking, that fellow that turned Queen's evidence on the Invincibles, he used to receive that. Now he's thinking about a person that gave evidence in a court case against the Invincibles. The Invincibles are some people here in Ireland that were caught. Um, they were caught in, not caught. They were charged with some offence here against the English, I would say, if I was to guess here. And they were apprehended, and now he's thinking about a fella turns Queen's evidence on the Invincibles. So someone that basically gave them up and told on them and gave evidence against them. If we could find out who the Invincibles were, this would become clearer. So somebody, turned evidence, gave evidence against them. He used to receive that. He used to receive the communion. That's what he's saying. And he's thinking, Kerry was his name. That was his name. The communion. He used to receive. Kerry was his name. The communion every morning. So leave out Kerry was his name. He used to receive the communion every morning. So this Kerry used to receive a Holy Communion. He's going to Mass every day, and then he turns around and he, basically rats, or what, not rats, but gives evidence on these people. I shouldn't just use the word rats. He gave evidence against these people, that's more or less what's going on there. This very church, actually, and he's saying, it actually happened in this very church here. Peter Carey. Now he's thinking, no, his name was Peter Carey. No, Peter Claver. No, and then he's thinking, no, his name was Peter Claver, I'm thinking of. And then he's thinking, or was it Dennis Carey? And just imagine that. And he's thinking, and just imagine that he had a wife and 6 children at home and plotting that murder all the time. There was somebody murdered here probably in Irish history, and this could be the person that committed the murder, and he had 6 children and a wife and 6 children, and he was plotting that murder all the time. Those craw thumpers, now that's a good name for them. Those craw thumpers, I don't know who he's referring to, craw thumpers here, but he said that's a good name for them. Let me read this on. Those craw thumpers, now that's a good name for them. There's always something shifty looking about them. They're not straight men of business either. Oh no, she's not here. The flower. No. By the way, did I tear up that envelope? Yes, under the bridge. So those craw thumpers, if I was to guess, I think he's referring to priests in general. Now that's a good name for them. He's thinking there's always something shifty looking about them. I can't say for sure he's referring to priests here. I'm not really sure, but this is what he's thinking. They're not straight men of business either. That's what he's thinking. Oh no, and then he's thinking the lady that wrote him the letter. Oh no, she's not here. And then he's thinking the flower that in his pocket. No. By the way, did I tear up that envelope? And then he's thinking, oh, did I tear up that envelope? And he's thinking, yes, I did, under the bridge. Reading on. The priest was rinsing out the chalice. Then he tossed off the dregs smartly. Wine makes it more aristocratic than, for example, if he drank what they are used to, Guinness's porter or some temperance beverage. Wheatley's Dublin hop bitters or Cantrell and Cochrane's ginger ale aromatic doesn't give them any of it. Shoe wine only the other. Cold comfort, pious fraud, but quite right. Otherwise, they'd have one old boozer worse than another coming along cadging for a drink. Queer the whole atmosphere of the quite right, perfectly right. That is. So reading over that again. The priest was rinsing out the chalice. So after Holy Communion, I think the priest rinses out the chalice with water and he wipes it with, like a handkerchief thing. So this happens after people receive Holy Communion. The priest is rinsing out the chalice. Oh no, sorry, it's the wine in the chalice that you drink to after Holy Communion, if you so desire. The priest was rinsing out the chalice. Yeah. Also in at a Catholic mass, the priest, would drink like a small one drink of wine as well. The priest rinsing out the chalice, then he tossed off the dregs smartly, the little drops in the bottom. Wine, yes, makes it more aristocratic. Now he's saying about wine in general is more aristocratic than, for example, if the priest drank what he was used to, Guinness's porter. That's what he's more thinking there. Or some temperance beverage, Wheatley's Dublin hot bitters, or Canterell and Cochrane's ginger ale, and that's what he's thinking. Doesn't give them any of it. Doesn't give them any of it. More or less saying that the regular people don't get the wine really. You're supposed to get you've received the Holy Communion, and also you're supposed to. The body of Jesus would be, in a spiritual sense, would be the Holy Communion, and the blood of Jesus, in a spiritual sense, would be the wine. This is the whole idea. But most people just receive the Holy Communion; they don't actually get the wine as such. But I think you're supposed to receive both. So this is what he's thinking. Doesn't give them any of it, meaning the wine. Shew wine, only the other. They only take the Holy Communion. Cold comfort. Cold comfort. Pious fraud, but quite right. Otherwise, now he's thinking. Otherwise, if everybody did get a drink of wine after Holy Communion, you'd have every boozer, like every alcoholic, basically in the city, coming in for a drink of wine. Pious fraud, but quite right. Otherwise, they'd have one old boozer, one old alcoholic, worse than another, coming along, cadging for a drink, just coming in to get a drink of wine, basically. That's what he's thinking there. Queer the whole atmosphere of the church. Quite right, but it's quite right not to give these people the wine, because you'd have all these, boozers and alcoholics coming in just to get a drink of the wine all the time. Quite right, perfectly right. That's right, he's thinking. Mr. Bloom looked back towards the choir. Not going to be any music, pity. Who has the organ here, I wonder? Old Lynn, he knew how to make that instrument talk. The vibrato, £50 a year, they say he had in Gardner Street. Molly was in fine vice that day. The Stabat Mater of Rossini, Father Bernard Vaughan's sermon first. Christ or Pilate, Christ. But don't keep us up all night over it. Music they wanted. Foot drill stopped. Could hear a pin drop. I told her to pitch her voice against that corner. I could feel the trill in the air, the people looking up. Quest est homo. I'm going to check something here now. Check the time. Okay, we're doing alright in time, actually. Okay. So Mr. Bloom looked back towards the choir. Now, in most churches, there's a choir, or there's an area for a choir, where people would sing. Mr. Bloom looked back towards the choir. And then he's thinking, not going to be any music. Pity. There's not going to be any music here today at this mass. And then he's thinking, that's a pity. Who is the organ here, I wonder? Now he's thinking, who plays the organ here? Old Lynn. And then he's thinking, Old Lynn, a person called Old Lynn. Old Lynn, he knew how to make that instrument talk. So he knew a person, Old Lynn, that used to know how to play this organ. He could make it practically talk. The vibrato, which is probably a song. And then he's thinking about Old Lynn. £50 a year, they say he had in Gardner Street. So this Old Lynn, he had £50 a year in Gardner Street. Gardner Street is possibly a bank or something, or some post office, something along their lines. Molly was in fine voice that day. Now he's thinking back to an event in the past where Molly, his wife, sang in this choir at some stage. And he's thinking, Molly, his wife, Molly was in fine voice that day. The Stabat Mater of Rossini, which is an operatic song, I would say. Father Bernard Vaughan's sermon first. Now, so the priest at that mass, when Molly Bloom was singing in the choir, done a sermon, which is a part of the mass here, the sermon. It can last, a short time or a long time, depending on the priest. It's basically the priest reads out from the New Testament what they call the gospel, and then he comments on it, and he brings it into not modern, but how it it would refer to people's lives, in the church, more or less. So that's called a sermon. That comes after the gospel reading. Father Bernard Vaughan's sermon first. Now, sometimes the sermon can go on for a long time, and sometimes people get a bit edgy if it goes on too long. So this is what he's referring to. Molly was on 5 vice a day. Father Bernard Vaughan's sermon first. Christ your Pilate. Now he's thinking, was the sermon about Christ or was it about Pontius Pilate? And then he's thinking, no, the sermon was about Christ, Jesus Christ. But don't keep us up all night over it. Now he's thinking, Father Bernard Vaughan's sermon went on for a long time, and he's thinking, don't keep us up on it. But he kept us up. This was a long sermon. And then he's thinking, music they wanted. The people wanted to hear the music. So if I was to guess here, I'd say that after this mess was over, there was probably a concert in the church. And he's thinking the people were getting a bit edgy because the sermon went on too long. Music they wanted. The people wanted to hear the concert afterwards. Foot drill stopped. Foot drill stopped. I wouldn't say people were stamping their feet. That would be kind of disrespectful. Foot drill stopped. I'm not sure what that refers to. And then he thinks, could hear a pin drop. Before the concert started or during the concert, whatever, you could hear a pin drop. I told her to pitch her voice against a corner. So Leopold Bloom had told Molly Bloom to pitch her voice against a certain corner in the church. I could feel the thrill in the air, the people looking up. Let's see, great imagery from Joyce here again. Quest es Homa. Some of that old sacred music is splendid. Mer Cadenti, 7 last words. Mozart's 12th Mass, the Gloria in that. The Gloria in that. That's great writing from Joyce. Those old popes were keen on music, on art, and statues and pictures of all kinds. Palestrina, for example, too, they had a gay old time while it lasted. Healthy too, chanting, regular hours, then brew liqueurs, Benedictine, green, chartreuse, whatever, still having eunuchs in their choir, was coming it a bit thick. What kind of voice is it? Must be curious to hear after their own strong basses. Connoisseurs suppose they wouldn't feel anything after. Kind of placid, no worry, fall into flesh, don't they? Gluttons, tall long legs, who knows, eunuchs, one way out of it. So some of that old music is splendid. Now Leopold Bloom is taking some of that old sacred music from churches and what is splendid, it's fantastic. Some of that old sacred music is splendid. Mercadante, 7 last words, Mozart's 12th Mass, the glory in that, the brilliance in that. Mozart's 12th Mass, the glory in that. Then he's thinking, those old popes were keen on music. So old popes, which the popes are the leaders of the Catholic Church, those old popes were keen on music. They were keen on art and statues and pictures of all kinds. Pictures like paintings. Palestrina, for example, too. Possibly an opera or something along them lines. They had a gay old time while it lasted. Palestrina, it could be referring to a time period where there was a lot of that singing going on, possibly. They had a gay old time while it lasted. Healthy too, chanting. The chanting in churches and so on. Regular. Then he's thinking about kind of priests in general. They have regular hours, and then the brew liqueurs, which is a lot of the monasteries, monks. Actually, a lot of the monks. I think a lot of the liqueurs actually were invented in monasteries by monks. If I'm correct in that, I think I am. A lot of the world-known liqueurs, I think, were actually started in monasteries. That's what he's referring to there. Regular hours, then brew liqueurs. Benedictine monks, which are monks in a monastery. I think they invented some famous liqueur in France, I think, actually. They were the ones that started it first. Green, chartreuse, whatever that means. Still having eunuchs in their choir, that was coming it a bit thick. Now he's thinking about in the choirs, going back in the Catholic Church, history, they used to have eunuchs. which are, you'll have to look that word up in the dictionary, I'm afraid. And it was done deliberately, and it was more or less to preserve the voice, keep the voice sounding better. They didn't want these boys' voices to break. They wanted the voices to stay kind of sounding like boys, I think, for as long as possible. If I'm correct in that, I'm not sure, but it's something along them lines. And I think they deliberately do this to keep them having these voices a lot for years and years, when the voices would break at the age of 12, 13, whatever. Still having eunuchs in their choir, that was coming in a bit thick, and it actually did happen, I think. What kind of voice is it? Um, Now he's thinking about that. Must be curious to hear. Now he's thinking, must be curious to hear their voices after. Must be curious to hear after their own strong basses. Um, Maybe their voices were starting to break, and then when this happened, it will revert back to a different, the voice, the wanted kind of connoisseurs. Now he's thinking there were connoisseurs of voices and music and all that. So they wanted to preserve this great singing for as long as possible. There were connoisseurs, kind of like all listeners here. You're slowly becoming Joyce connoisseurs. Suppose they wouldn't feel anything after it. Now he's thinking about eunuchs. I suppose they wouldn't feel anything after this operation that happened, or whatever it was. They feel kind of placid, no worry. Fall into flesh, don't they? Fall into flesh, don't they? Now he's thinking about what would happen, and would he fall into flesh? Gluttons, tall, long legs, and they might end up eating, gluttons, this is what he's thinking here. Who knows? Eunuchs, one way out of it. Reading on. He saw the priest bend down and kiss the altar, and then face about and bless all the people. All crossed themselves and stood up. Mr. Bloom glanced about him and then stood up, looking over the risen hats. Stand up at the gospel, of course. Then all settled down on their knees again, and he sat back quietly in his bench. The priest came down from the altar, holding the thing out for them, and he and the mess boy answered each other in Latin. Then the priest knelt down and began to read off a card, "Our God, our refuge, and our strength." Let me read that now a second again. I'm going to be soon finishing up this last section of the third installment. He saw the priest bend down, so he's looking at the priest up at the altar. He saw the priest bend down and kiss the altar. So the priest has kissed the altar in out of respect, and then face about and bless the people. So now the priest has turned to the people in the church, and he's blessed all the people with his hand. Probably all crossed themselves. All the people in the church blessed himself in the name of the Father and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's what they would have done. All crossed themselves and stood up. They all stood up. Mess is over. Mr. Bloom glanced about him and then stood up. He glanced about and stood up, looking over the risen hats. He's looking over the risen hats. Great imagery from Joyce, of course. Stand up at the gospel, of course. The gospel is a part of the reading during the Mass, where they read from the Gospels. And he's thinking they also stand up when they're reading the gospel. I think that's what he's referring to there. Yeah, when they're reading the gospel, I think you stand up, and when the gospel is read, you sit back down. Stand up at the gospel, of course. Then all settle down on their knees again. Oh yeah, okay. So the priest is reading the gospel at this stage. Or maybe not, because he's giving out Holy Communion. Along them lines, kind of. They all then all settle down on their knees again. And so all the people in the church have knelt down on their knees at their seats, and he sat back quietly in his bench. They all sat down on their knees again, and he sat back quietly in his bench. So Leopold Bloom is sitting back in his bench. The priest came down from the altar. So the priest came down from the altar, holding the thing out from him, which is probably he's going to bless the people in this church with holy water or something. This particular day is significant. It could be the feast day of some saint or something, and this could be a special blessing the priest would give on this day, I would say. And he and the mess by, which is an altar by, the priest came down from the altar holding the thing out from them. Now Joyce is referring to something else here as well, holding the thing out from them, or holding the thing out from him. There's a double meaning here from Joyce, obviously. And he and the mess by answered each other in Latin. So the priest and the altar boy answered each other in Latin. Then the priest knelt down and began to read off a card. So the priest had knelt down, "O God, our refuge and our strength." I was going to stop there now, but I'm going to read on a little bit more. Mr. Bloom put his face forward to catch the words English. "Throw them the bone. I remember slightly how long since your last mass, Gloria and Immaculate Virgin, Joseph her spouse, Peter and Paul. More interesting if you understood what it was all about. Wonderful organization, certainly goes like clockwork. Confession, everybody wants to. Then I will tell you all." Actually, I'm going to stop there now because I'm up to my time limit, kind of. We'll get that in the fourth installment. So we'll just finish it. "O God, our refuge and our strength." "O God, our refuge and our strength." And that should finish. That finishes. Actually, we're up to page 71, which we didn't do today. Now we got 1, 2, 3, just 4 pages. But Ulysses takes time. It takes time, no doubt about it. Just before I go, I'd like to give a plug to my book of short stories, which is called 9 Stories from Avinon, Avinom, which there should be a link on this recording too, where people can view it. And if people would like to purchase that book and also spread the word about that book, I would really appreciate that. And that would also allow me to continue to go through completely Ulysses' work, and and other Joyce books, and also equally as important, it will also allow me to go into an in-depth study of Emily Dickinson's poems, which a lot of poems I think are, to put it mildly or bluntly, whatever, I think a lot of her poems are totally misunderstood, and they're putting an image out there of Emily Dickinson that I cannot see in her poems at all. She's been referred to like a reclusive, dark person, and when she was not, she was one of the greatest people, as I said before, that ever walked this earth, and it's clearly obvious in her poetry. And I think Emily Dickinson is completely misunderstood, and I would not say that lightly, believe me. And the explanations I see to her poems are totally different to what's in the textbooks out there, and that's I feel strongly about that. Especially that poem, "At half past 3, a single bird onto a silent sky." That poem is, reading the explanation there in one of the textbooks to that poem. The more it's agreed upon interpretation. I know everybody has their own interpretation of poems and all that, but that's fine. But if you're putting this image of a person out there when it's totally not correct, this is the problem I have. And the explanation of that poem is, I think it's way off. It's completely way off to the real intent behind that poem, I think. But that's for another time. So if people could spread the word about my book, 9 Stories from Avinon, Avinom, it's for sale there in Amazon. And also spread the word about that book. And as I said before, it's also 9 one-act plays, and that book in particular took me 3 years to write, because I wrote it. I wasn't just writing it as 9 short stories. Each short stories I knew I was going to flip into plays. So every word of dialogue in that book will be used in the stage when I get my plays staged. And as I said before, if any theatres out there, not looking for big theatres, small theatres, parish theatres, drop me an email if you're looking to put 24 of your members to work in 3 one-act plays. I think highly entertaining 3 one-act plays. You can put 24 of your members on stage, almost immediately after rehearsals. 12 actors, 12 actresses. I think that's one of the advantages of theatres will get from staging my plays is there's all large casts. There's no like one person or 2 persons. They're all large casts, most of them. And them 3 one-act plays are there's a total cast for the 3 plays of 24. So there's a lot of actors and stage actors and actors that can get parts in these plays. Some of them are minor parts, some of them are large parts. I think they're highly entertaining. They definitely deserve to be staged. And so any theatres out there, small, big, small, doesn't matter. Drop me an email and you can start rehearsing as soon as I send you the scripts. It's kind of no big deal theatre. That's the way I look at theatre. It's people make a big deal about theatre. Oh, we're not going to stage that play unless you have every dot and T. Oh no, we're not. It's my plays are stage them. And let's see what happens. It's no big deal theatre. That's my whole view of theatre. It's not a big deal. This, even if you never acted before. So what, any theatres, small theatres out there, whatever, if you want to, take the road less travelled by, as I said before, these plays, total 13, 9, 10, 11 one-act plays and 2 full-length plays waiting to be staged. As I said before many times, that's 4 complete nights of theatre with an overall cast of 80. I hope stage actors and actresses will, eventually get behind me, and I would like to take theatre to, take it out to as many people as possible. As I said before, I have a lot of good ideas to promote theatre in general, and I can't really promote them if I don't get the support of the stage actors and actresses, Or, people can remain doing the same thing. That's fine too, But I'm going to end up here now, and also, as I said, if people can spread the word about my book, 9 Stories from Avalon. So I'm going to sign off here. The next installment will be the 4th installment, which should take us up to 70, should take us up to page 95 possibly, or maybe up close to 100. I'm going to continue doing this anyways. So I'm going to sign off here now. I'm also going to sign off from the village of Monavea. Anybody ever passing through, drop in to see us here in Monavea. We'd be delighted to see everybody, and I thank all listeners for listening to this recording. Until next time, Sláinte.